Let's all sing together. Here we go. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I am Lori Merkin McGee, a commissioned lay minister to this congregation and this morning's worship leader. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather virtually once again in a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. Now, as we prepare for worship, let us take a moment to breathe, to invite the spirit of love to be present among us, and to set aside the demands and worries of the world for now.
Love grows right now, I smile with you. Our hearts expand in the light of this room. These eyes are widening eyes, and I know this voice, it defines the cries of my soul. My heart is truly beginning to bloom. My heart is truly beginning to bloom. Let's open the windows and open the doors and notice this moment like never before. Break through the barriers and reach out a hand and offer a peace to a stranger or friend. We'll raise the whole building and rise up above to the part of us that feels and knows how to love. And we'll sing of the goodness and speak of the truth, and the joy in our hearts will enlighten this room. No matter your struggles, no matter your pain, there's a love right now, it's bringing on a change. Open your eyes and take in the view, 'cause right now I'm smiling with you. Right now I'm smiling. Right now I'm smiling. Right now I'm smiling with you. Love grows right now, I smile with you. Our hearts expand in the light of this room. These eyes are widening eyes, and I know this voice defines the cries of my soul. My heart is truly beginning to bloom. My heart is truly beginning to bloom. My heart is truly beginning to bloom.
Good morning. 45-ish years ago, when I was a sad, lonely, angsty, sometimes angry, but always know-it-all teenager full of emotion, I began writing poetry. I imagined it as the only way to drain and manage all of those feelings that were bubbling up in my gawky, pimply self, who nobody understood. Not only did I write prolifically and sometimes badly, I read voraciously, finding emotional solace and peace in poetry. I felt a deep native state sisterhood with my Emily, the maid of Amherst, Massachusetts, and a heart tug toward the Black women poets, Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, and Akron's own Rita Dove. Their words, spare at times, eloquent at others, spoke to a place in me that nothing else did. There was also room there for my poet friends, E. E. Cummings and Robert Frost, Walt Whitman, and Langston Hughes. As I've aged, I've added new friends into my circle with our current poet laureate, Joy Harjo, Billy Collins, and of course, the incomparable Mary Oliver. I've come to appreciate and embrace poetry as a universal language, expressing human emotion in all its glory and its pain, no matter where you are from in the world or where your journey is taking you. Today, we celebrate World Poetry Day with offerings from different voices, cultures, continents, and points of view. Our sixth Unitarian Universalist principle reminds us that we aspire toward a goal of creating world community, and we can do this through sharing of poetry and experience. Each step we take, each tiny step, brings us a bit closer to peace, liberty, and justice for us all. Come, let us worship and enjoy poetry together.
Each Sunday, we light a flame within a chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalists across the world as they share a religious journey together. Will you please say these words that are on the screen as I light our shared chalice this morning? Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. When I was 4 years old, my family moved from Southern California to Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was 1965. My parents hadn't attended church in California, and they were surprised when meeting new people in Tulsa that the second or third question they were asked was whether they had joined a church. Of course, a no was followed by an invitation to visit that person's church. So my parents decided to be proactive and they started looking for a church, and that's how my family ended up joining All Souls Unitarian Church, which is now one of the largest in the country. Growing up in Oklahoma, I came to value the experiences I had at that church, especially the emphasis on religious thought. I remember fourth grade religious education classes in particular. The curriculum dealt with core concepts of Christianity. We drew pictures of how we thought the world was created, which were posted in the social hall. And we talked about the nature of God and was Jesus really the Son of God? Only later did I appreciate how radical it was that these were treated as open questions. My friends who were Southern Baptists certainly were having a different experience in their church. I also felt accepted for who I was at that church. Fast forward several years, when my younger son was 2 years old, I decided it was time to think about his religious education, and we started attending this Kent Unitarian Universalist church. I wanted him to grow up in a place that would provide him a religious grounding in faith traditions and encourage him to think for himself. I also wanted a place where our family would feel embraced and loved. That was especially important for me as we didn't have any local family around as we were raising children. Many of you know my children, Noah and Alan, who grew up in this church. I'm grateful for the religious education they received. In addition to the theology, they had so many caring friends, and they found friends at church, or so many caring teachers, and they found friends at the church. I'm especially grateful for the people at this church who loved my children and gave them a community that cared about them. My husband is not a UU, and we sometimes attended events like campouts or summer camps without him. Through these experiences, my children formed special connections with some of the adults in this church. I believe it is always good for children to have caring adult mentors. So thank you to those of you who were there for my children. You know who you are. My children brought me back to church, but my own needs are why I stayed and have been involved with this church. This church has helped me be a better person by reminding me each week of what is really important in life. I found friends at this church, and I try to give generously to the pledge campaign, so this church will be here for the next person who needs our message of religious freedom and the power of love.
In the spirit of being a community of compassion and care, please use the chat box to share with us your concerns and sorrows and losses. We will make space in a few moments for joys and celebrations. For now, let us lift up those things that weigh heavy on our hearts this morning. Kara shares for her mom's family as they mourn the passing of her cousin Keith. We hold you all in love. Claudia is thinking of her friend Mary Ann, whose mother-in-law died alone in a nursing home. Jennifer is holding their friend Sarah in their hearts as her mother passed away in Texas this week. Kay shares a concern for her 97-year-old Aunt Eleanor, who just entered hospice care. May they find love and light in that experience. Eric is sending strength to nephew Aiden, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Jennifer also shares a concern for her mom, who has been falling a lot recently and is so far away in Florida. I have a concern for my uncle-in-law, Sam Cooperman, who has cancer and is in a nursing home. Kat is concerned that there are still not enough vaccines in Portage County. Max and Shayna share concern for a 90-year-old mother recovering from a stroke. We wish her health and healing. For all of these concerns and sorrows that we have shared this morning, and for those we hold silently in our hearts, we now offer you this prayer.
Spirit of care and compassion, we invite you into our circle this day. We ask that our prayers, our cares, our concerns be heard by each and all. Please care for our hurting brothers and sisters, all of our siblings of Asian and Pacific Island descent, that they know that they are loved. May our care and our concern for each of our individual sorrows be brought into this community that we all share in the pain that one feels, we all feel. Amen. Blessed be.
And once again, using the chat box, I invite you now to share your joys and celebrations with us. Ginny shares that one of her former students was just named the first poet laureate of Buffalo, New York. What a great honor and fitting for today. Randy shares, it's a great joy to watch the earth unfold and come to life and to be part of this transformation. A happy spring indeed. Jen May is grateful to the Air National Guard for giving vaccines at the Wolstein Center. She and Lois had their first shot. Megan had her second shot this week, and we are all that much closer to a return to connection. Tracy is celebrating her friend Christy's last chemo and good prognosis. Kevin shares that Krishna Fitch gave birth to her second child at 10:32 p.m. on St. Patrick's Day, another St. Patrick's Day birthday. Congratulations to all. Anne shares, I left last year's daffodils from Easter service outside the front door, and they're starting to come up again. Ellen shares, thanks to Ilona for hosting our high school youth group at Happy Trails Farm Animal Sanctuary last week. Their work there is incredible. Renee is looking forward to the blessing of the community garden in Kent's historic South End today at 3 p.m. at the corners of Dodge and Walnut. With gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, for the great gift of life itself, for the companionship of one another on life's journey, and for the hope and possibilities together we say, Amen.
One, two, three.
Good morning. This morning I'm going to share a poem with you, written by Nicholas Guillen, who is a Cuban poet. Now this poet, we're going to add some motions to it. We're going to use our bodies a little bit. It comes in 4 parts. One part talks about the air, the second about the sky, the third about water, and the fourth about the earth. It's a call and response in a way. There are 2 voices here. And so I'm going to teach you the motions for the second voice, for the response voice. When we talk about the air, we will do a motion like this. Can you do this with me? We can do it sitting down or standing up. Okay. We talk about the sky and the clouds. We will expand our arms up to the sky. When we talk about the water, we will ripple the water. All right? And when we speak about the land, we will feel the land's heartbeat. And don't worry if you don't remember the motions. I'll help you through it. Let's begin. Can You by Nicholas Guillen. Can you sell me the air that passes through your fingers and hits your face and undoes your hair? Can you sell me $5 worth of wind, or perhaps sell me a cyclone? Maybe you could sell me the thin air, the air, not all of it, that sweeps into your garden, blossom to blossom, into your garden for the birds. $10 of pure air. The air, it turns and passes with butterfly-like spins. No one owns it. No one. Can you sell me some sky? The sky that's blue at times or gray and green at times? A small part of your sky, the one you bought, you think with all the trees of your orchard, as one who buys the ceiling with a house. Can you sell me $1 worth of sky? 2 miles of sky, a fragment of your sky, whatever piece you can. The sky is in the clouds. The clouds are high. They pass. No one owns them. No one. Can you sell me some rain? The water that has given your tears and wets your tongue. Can you sell me $1 worth of water from the spring, or a pregnant cloud as soft and graceful as a lamb? Or even water fallen on a mountain, or water gathered in the ponds abandoned to the dogs? Or 1 league of the sea, a lake perhaps, $100 worth of lake? The water falls and it runs. The water runs and it passes. No one holds it. No one. Can you sell me some land, the deep night of the roots, the teeth of dinosaurs, and the scattered lime of distant skeletons? Can you sell me long since buried jungles, birds now extinct, fish fossilized, 1,000 million years rising in a spiral of volcanoes? Can you sell me some land? Can you sell me some land? Can you? The land that is yours is mine. The feet of all walk on it. No one owns it. No one.
Beyond sunrise, there's a song we follow. Beyond clouds traveling with rain humped on their backs, lightning in their fists. Beyond the blue horizon, where our ancestors appear bearing gifts, wrapped in blankets woven with sun and strands of scarlet time. Beyond the footpaths we walk every day, from sunrise to kitchen, to work, to garden, to play, to sunset, to dark and back. Beyond where the baby sleeps, her breath, a light mist of happiness, making a fine rainbow of becoming knowledge around us. Beyond the children learning alphabets and numbers, bent over their sticks and dolls as they play, war and family grow human paths. Beyond the grandmothers and grandfathers, their mothers and fathers, and in the marrow of their bones, to when that song was first sung, we traveled on. Beyond sunset, can you hear it? The shaking of shells, the drumming of feet, the singers singing, all of us, all at once. In the song of beyond, how deep we are.
I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizons. I love her jewel sea, her beauty and her terror, the wide brown land for me. The stark white ring-barked forests, all tragic to the moon, the sapphire misted mountains, the hot gold hush of noon. Great tangle of the brushes where live lianas coil, and orchids deck the treetops, and ferns the warm dark soil. An opal-hearted country, a willful lavish land. All you who have not loved her, you will not understand. Though earth holds many splendors, wherever I may die, I know to what brown country my homing thoughts will fly.
My sweet European homeland, a butterfly lighting on your flowers stains its wings with blood. Blood gathers in the mouths of tulips, shines star-like inside a morning glory, and washes the grains of wheat. Your people warm their hands at the funeral candle of a primrose, and here on the fields, the wind howling and the cannons ready to be fired. You are a land where it's no shame to suffer, for one is served here a glass of bitter liquor with lees, the poison of centuries. On your broken evening of wet leaves, by the waters that carry rust of centurion sunken armor, at the foot of blasted towers, in the shadow of their spans like aqueducts, under the quiet canopy of an owl's wings, a red poppy touched by the ice of tears. On this voyage into the deep communion of solitude I've casually come to know, the old and withered costumes of the sea. I've walked carefully through the colors of copper when the dusk has already conjured the last prayer of the day. Through seasonal doorways, I've called upon the twilight ghosts arched in the corners of the narrow cobblestone streets. I've let my lips evade the necessary verses to find the ending phrase for the afternoon. I've disarmed the elusive equity of the night, conceive an intimate verse from its fortified mysteries. I've cast aside the grieving songs of my twilight as the sky envelops the enamored vestments of the night. I've done and undone so many things in search of you.
Between going and staying, the day wavers, in love with its own transparency. The circular afternoon is now a bay where the world in stillness rocks. All is visible and all elusive. All is near and can't be touched. Paper, book, pencil, glass rest in the shade of their names. Time throbbing in my temples repeats the same unchanging syllable of blood. The light turns the indifferent wall into a ghostly theater of reflections. I find myself in the middle of an eye, watching myself in its blank stare. The moment scatters, motionless. I stay and go. I am a pause.
Not the peace of a ceasefire, not even the vision of the wolf and the lamb, but rather, as in the heart when the excitement is over and you can talk only about a great weariness. I know that I know how to kill. That makes me an adult. And my son plays with a toy gun that knows how to open and close its eyes and say, Mama. A peace without the big noise of beating swords into plowshares, without words, without the thud of the heavy rubber stamp. Let it be light, floating like lazy white foam. A little rest for the wounds. Who speaks of healing? And the howl of the orphans is passed from one generation to the next, as in a relay race. The baton never falls. Let it come like wildflowers, suddenly, because the field must have it. Wild peace.
Women like me do not know how to speak. A word remains in their throats like a thorn they choose to swallow. Women like me know nothing except weeping, impossible weeping, suddenly pouring like a severed artery. Women like me receive blows and do not dare return them. They shake with anger, they subdue it. Like lions in cages, women like me dream of freedom.
Soft hair, hair that is all the softness of the world. Without you lying in my lap, what silk would I enjoy? Sweet the passing day because of that silk, sweet the sustenance, sweet the ancient sadness, at least for the few hours it slips between my hands. Touch it to my cheek, wind it in my lap like flowers. Let me braid it to soften my pain, to magnify the light with it now that it is dying. When I am with God someday, I do not want an angel's wing to cool my heart's bruises. I want stretches against the sky, the hair of the children I loved, to let it blow in the wind against my face eternally.
Watching the moon rise alone, the silent moon is like the person watching. They're alone together. No one utters a single word. The passage of time is like the journey of the moon across the sky. It moves further and further away until the sky is completely empty.
Just as I am. Just as I am, counted with those who breathe, you cannot break my bone. Just as you cannot scan the sun, let watching witches watch and leave my brook to bark, just as I am. Just as I am, in eyes of those who see, you cannot grade my grain, just as you cannot catch the wind. So let fighting flies fight and leave my land to lie. Just as I am, just as I am counted with those with tongue, you cannot face my foe, just as you cannot drink the dam. Let wailing wizards wail and leave my waves to break, just as I am, just as I am, in the ears of those who hear, you cannot burn my bush, just as you cannot count the ants. So let swimming sheep swim and leave my stars to shine.
Leaving the earth, mounting the air. Does the bird know that it's the earth it's leaving? To fly above it, you really have to go high. And when they return to settle on trees, do birds know it's the earth they've returned to? I don't have wings. There's a small yellow butterfly flying above the earth. Today is World Poetry Day, a day to celebrate the poets and poems from across the globe. Much like Elaine's experience with poetry, I too found solace in the words of poets. My love of verse began when I was assigned the epic poem Beowulf in my AP English class in high school. I fell in love with it, even though my classmates did not. From there, I discovered many, many other poets, moving through the canon of all of the great masters. In college, I discovered many more poems and poets, including the work of the pre-Columbian indigenous groups, Spanish American colonial poets, and Mexican American or Chicano poetry in the Southwest. It wasn't until I joined this church that I learned how spiritual and prayerful poetry could be. Like so many other UUs, I was raised Catholic. I found solace in the words of the prayers, words I knew by heart, which felt like poems to me. They stayed with me throughout all of my childhood. And yet, as a young adult, I grew disillusioned with religion in general and stopped using prayers altogether. I did, however, find solace in prayer later in my life when I got over my anger at organized religion. I no longer used traditional prayers since the language did not reflect my beliefs. So when I needed to pray, I just used my own language. I did miss those prayers, however, and when I discovered Unitarian Universalism over 16 years ago, I searched for books of UU prayers only to come up empty handed. What I did find again and again were books of poems, sometimes called meditations, which were offered as a means of a contemplative practice. I had never thought to use poetry in this way, but found that the poems worked the same way the prayer did. I discovered that poetry is at the crossroads between art and spirituality. Poetry reaches deep within us like no other literary form is able to do. With a few well-chosen words, the poet can bring to vivid life a shared human experience. Today, a large part of my personal spiritual practice is finding and reading poetry. The poems we read today are just a small sampling of what can be found if you take the time to look. And the more you read the words of the poets of this world, you cannot but realize that we are indeed one people with the same fears, desires, hopes, and dreams. We love the same. We grieve the same. We truly are a global community. So my charge to you today is this. Find a poem from another country, maybe somewhere you'd like to travel or someplace you'd like to know more about. Let the poetry of that place open the door into connection and community. May it be so, and amen.
Good morning. My name is Diane Kloss, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to you today about my UU journey and the reasons that I make an annual pledge to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent, where I've been attending for about 15 years. I first heard about Unitarian Universalism from my mother, who attended several services at the Youngstown Unitarian Church when I was in high school. We lived in Sharon, Pennsylvania, and I grew up in what I call a liberal Baptist church with an emphasis on social justice. There aren't many of those. When I first met my husband, Dave, years later, I told him that I was attending a women's march in Washington, D.C., and meeting up with a group from a UU church. I used those initials, UU, and he knew what I was talking about. He had attended a fellowship in Canton, and to make a long story short, we were married in the Kent Unitarian Church in 2006. I find the people in this church to be open, accessible, and over the years have made some special friendships at the church. I enjoy the Sunday services, and they provide me a quiet place to reflect as well as a shared community. I've also attended chalice groups, auction dinners, and have gotten to know members of the church through my committee work, especially the membership team, where I've been a part of that group for a number of years. And we try to do our part to make this a welcoming place. I'm increasingly aware, though, that this church provides me something else, this intentional approach to having right relations with others. It's a unique blessing. All of our meetings start and end with a chalice lighting and a check-in to remind me that our efforts are more than just conducting business and making plans. This intentional way of being together helps me stay focused on the importance that my life is a journey and not just a destination. In December of this past year, my mother passed away. She had become a Unitarian. Although not a member of our church, Reverend Stephen and the tech team made possible a most wonderful Zoom memorial service for my family to honor her life. The care and concern expressed to me by members of this congregation while she was ill and the process of putting her service together were very healing and comforting to me. This church community has been available to me during several of my life's transitions. I give of my time and also financially. I make an annual pledge to help this community thrive and grow, both for myself and for others who might find this special place for our community, for a community, and for encouragement and spiritual growth on life's journey.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. In spite of the ongoing need for physical distancing, we are strong and thriving as a community and are able to be together virtually for worship, for community, for shared ministry because of your gifts of money, time, and care that all so generously give. Thank you. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another and this community and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
This world we've been loving, so filled with her bounty, till lately we're wondering if earth will endure. Love's will is revealed in each beauteous field. This earth must be healed, our calling is clear. It's time we awake for our grandchildren's sake, 'cause the earth's not our making, nor ours to destroy. We live in relation with all of creation. Our only salvation is love, care, and joy. Our lives are so distant from God's holy vision. We've so much to wish and we've so much to lose. We must join together and help one another and pray to discover the path we must choose. With love as our guide and with friends by our side and with clearness of mind, we will care for the world. Then in love's relation with all of creation, we'll find our salvation and find our rebirth. There we go. Come fathers and mothers, sisters and brothers, come strangers and lovers, our spirits unite. With sunlight now streaming, with fields that are greening, with dew in its gleaming, one circle of life. I'll join the great chorus with flowers and with forest. Behind us, before us, one song and one voice. One love we are sharing, one family, one caring, one spirit that's daring to sing and rejoice.
As we bring our service to a close, I invite you to join me in these words as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again.
We have gathered under the proposition that beneath all our diversity, there lies a unity that binds us one to the other, to the earth and to the stars. Let us take that unity out into the world, inspiring love, working for justice, and growing into one world community. Amen. Blessed be, and namaste.